Okay, so now that we've addressed that I mean, yes, it was a choice. It was the less crappy choice or crappier of crappy choices. That we realized that it was a choice. We have to now um, dig and address what it was, because slavery wasn't what we think it was. Um, we recognize slavery as a physical thing, as just a matter of physically enslaving us and bonding us, but it was more than physical. It was a mental slavery. Was in fact um, part of what Kanye was trying to point out to us is that the reality is, um, and then my personal believing is that the physical enslavement was icing on the cake. The mental enslavement, this enslaving of our minds, that was the goal. That was the immediate purpose that they wanted to do. Because the reality is, when you enslave someone's mind, you can allow them to sleep in your bed, to sleep in your house, to give them a choice to go, and they choose to come back to you. That is what mental slavery does. When you have somebody who you are treating as a slave and they don't even realize they're treating as a slave. That is why the mind slave, mental being a mental slave, is much more impactful and much more dangerous. And that was the goal from to begin with. It was to enslave our minds. They didn't come and get us here off the ships and ship us right to the fields. No, they first of all they enslaved us on the bottom of the boat to break us mentally. They broke us down to where you're broken to where the only way to go is up. So anything that they give you is a benefit, is a bonus from where you were. And so the ones that they couldn't mentally break, mentally enslave, those ones what they ended up killing because they knew they couldn't mentally break them. And so um, we think slavery, we look at it, and that's kind of the big, that's the big okey doke that occurred here, because um, if their goal is this, but they get this, they get the icing on the cake as a benefit to it. And now when they have to give up what they're doing, all they got to give up is the icing on the cake, and we don't even realize that the goal of what they wanted to attain has is still there and has been there ever since slavery was ended. They still, and that's kind of what Kanye was addressing, is that we still have this mental slavery going on, because although slavery ended, although they set us free, or what they know, although they ended slavery, they never set us free. And we have evidence of that today, where we are still not set free because we are still making choices that are similar to the choices that slaves made back in the day. And so what Kanye was trying to do, and what I feel like needs to happen, and what many people are we're trying to do, we need to understand, first of all, to recognize what freedom really is, and do we really have we really attained it yet? So I have the definitions here. Slavery is well, freedom, actually. Let me look up, let me tell you what freedom is. So the definition of freedom is the power or right to act or speak or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. The next one is a state of not being imprisoned or enslaved. So physically setting someone free, that's what's attainable. That's what we can see, physically setting them free. But do black people really have the power? And I'm not saying um, exceptions. I'm saying the typical, when you think about a black person, not when you think about, not that you can talk about Beyonce's or Jay Z's or Drake's or all these people who, or the Barack Obama. I'm not talking about them. Those are the exceptions. What I'm speaking to are the typical, the people that you look around in your social circle and you see the people that are in our schools, the people that are in our everyday lives. When you look around and deal with them, do they have the power or the right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint? Yes, we have the power to act, speak, and think, but is it without restraint or is it without hindrance? Because we've all seen the videos where a white person gets stopped by a cop and they can cuss them out and do all this, and you're this, and you're this, and you're this, but a black person does the same thing, and there's restraint and there is hindrance there. We clearly see how white people are allowed to do stuff without hindrance or without restraint, but black people in America still are not allowed to do those same things without hindrance or restraint. So we have to first of all recognize and break down these barriers, and come to the realization that the slavery that they're selling us what it was, it has not ended, and that's not what it was. They just simply um, ended slavery. They physically let us go, but they knew that they had our minds, and they knew that's why a couple of them, they knew that by, in fact, a couple of slave owners, they set slaves free out of spite, because they knew that slaves wouldn't have anywhere to go. They knew they wouldn't know how to. They weren't able to read. They had no education. A lot of them weren't even able to get a job. They were in a white man's land, in a foreign land, and you tell them to go free, and after 400 years, and then you're patting yourselves on the back saying that you done us a favor, that you set us free. No, you haven't set us free. You've just ended slavery, and the only reason why slavery was ended in the first place was not because it was wrong. It was not because it was wrong. Slavery was ended, and I'm gonna go ahead and end this one right now. And the next video is gonna be the real reason why slavery was ended. All right, tune in to that one.